Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
Welcome, I'm Jackson Burleson, and in this all-new episode of the Take podcast, we're going to be diving into the NBA Finals while also diving into Dan Hurley. He didn't accept the Los Angeles Lakers head coaching job, so what that means for the Lakers and also UConn going forward. And then later, we'll touch on Clark and her not making the Summer Olympic team. Absolutely insane. You're going to get all my reactions on those things. But first, let's start out with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie has been a ghost town for this NBA Finals. He has not performed up to standard at all. Let's just say that. So Kyrie Irving has not made a single three in 2 games in this series. He has not even went over 20 points. He hasn't even hit 20 points yet. For the Mavericks to win a title, Kyrie Irving has to be that guy. He has to be. Him and Luka have to be putting up 30 each. But there's just no way they're going to win this series. There's no way it's possible. But it's also no way it's possible when the Mavericks are shooting 66% from the free throw line. 66. You cannot shoot that bad from the free throw line and expect to win a playoff game. You cannot expect that. Now, I know Luka, he's been doing his thing. He put up 30 and he had 32 in game 2. But he cannot do it by himself. He cannot do it. Luka needs more help. And Kyrie Irving is the guy you need production out of. You can't have the guy getting 12, 16 points, not making a single three-pointer. That can't happen if you're the Dallas Mavericks. The Celtics were honestly giving the Mavericks a break in game 2 because in that game, they shot 25% from the three-point line. That's not good for the Celtics at all, who were one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. But the Mavericks also weren't shooting well either. They shot 23% from the three-point line. Not good, okay? Not good at all. Both teams didn't shoot well, but the Mavericks had a chance to win this game. They just didn't have guys step up. They didn't have, besides Luka, not one guy went over 20 points. Not one person. And Luka's banged up. He's got a chest injury. He's got a knee injury. He's playing through the pain. He is playing through the pain. And he's not getting any support. Apparently, Jason Tatum's all this ultra great player, which I'm not seeing in the first 2 games. I get it in game 2. He did have a triple-double. But he shot terrible. Jason Tatum shot 6 of 22 from the field and 1 for 7 from three-point range. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. You cannot be shooting this bad and be the best player. You can't. Now, I get it. He has a good enough team, and he can play this poorly and them still win, but Jaylen Brown's going to be getting finals MVP if Jason Tatum keeps playing this way. But I know Jason Tatum, his numbers on the road are a little bit better than at home this postseason. At home this postseason, Tatum's been averaging 22 points per game. On the road, he's been averaging 28. So a little bit of a different player here. And 3 30-point games on the road this postseason. Just remember that, okay? I expect Jason Tatum to have a good game 3 and a good game 4. But the Mavericks have to understand, if you do not win game 3, this series is over. It's going to be over. Kyrie Irving has to show up. That's what it comes down to for the Mavericks. Everyone else, even PJ Washington, he played pretty decent last night. He was good on the defensive end of the floor. He had 17 points. Not a bad game for PJ Washington. He is a role player. For Kyrie Irving, he is a star. And he has to play like a superstar. Okay? For this Mavericks team to win. Everyone knows this going into this series. Because the Celtics have too many shot creators. Celtics have 6 guys that can create their own shot. Mavericks only have 2. And we said this in last week's podcast, that the Mavericks had to have great games out of Luka and Kyrie every night. And Luka's been having great games every night, but Kyrie Irving has been nowhere to be found. And I didn't expect that from a guy who's won a title, who's had postseason experience. And for him to just disappear in Boston for the old team that you used to play for can't happen. Kyrie knows that. The whole NBA world knows that. Mavericks fans know that. I know that. I know it can't happen. And it's just, I feel like Kyrie has to have one of those games like he did in game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where he had 24 in the first half against the Timberwolves. I think that's what Kyrie needs in game 3. Because if he doesn't have a game like this, I think the Mavericks lose game 3 and the Celtics end up sweeping them. That's what I think is going to happen if Kyrie does not show up in game 3. If he does not show up, I wouldn't be surprised, but honestly, for a guy his stature and for the way he's played the last 2 games, Kyrie Irving should go, oh, maybe I should step it up going into game 3. Yeah, I'm sure he's thinking that, but his performances are unacceptable. But one guy, I will say, who's been phenomenal coming back from injury is Kristaps Porzingis. This 7'3" monster has been insane. He's averaging 2.5 blocks a game. And in game 1, oh my gosh, he was hitting threes from everywhere. Everywhere. You cannot guard him. Literally in the post, you give him a bad mismatch, he's just going to turn around and shoot it over people. That's what he's been doing. He's been making this Mavericks lineup look so little. Very little. He's been shooting it over people. Blocking shots. His impact has been insane off the bench. And I'm surprised, honestly, that he came off the bench in game 2 and game 1. I knew game 1 there was a chance that he would come off the bench, but game 2, I was like, okay, Porzingis, he should start, but he didn't start, which honestly shocked me. I didn't think Porzingis would come off the bench again, but he is an energy boost off the bench. Block shots, like that's what you need. Horford's playing great. He's running in transition. He's shooting the 3 ball. I like what Al Horford's doing. He's bringing in that game. And you know what's crazy? To me, I think the 3rd best player in this series has been Jrue Holiday. 3rd best player in the series. So, in my opinion, I think Luka Doncic, even though the Mavericks have lost the first 2 games, he's been the best player in the series. 2nd, I'll go Jaylen Brown. 3rd, I'll go Jrue Holiday. Because Jrue Holiday had 20-plus points in game 2, and he was making it so difficult with Kyrie Irving. He is making it, he's been a pest on the defensive end of the ball. A pest. And we knew going into this series that Jrue Holiday is a special on-ball defender. The best in the NBA, if you ask me. That's just my personal opinion. But one thing the Mavericks have to have is more guys off the bench contributing. You can't have 9 bench points. The Celtics had 17 in game 2. Mavericks had 9. Can't happen. Jalen Green, or excuse me, not Jalen Green, Josh Green. He's been a good defender, but I think he needs to score a little bit more points. Dante Exum, he's not really doing much off the bench. I don't really see him doing that much. I feel like Luka is carrying too much. If you know what I mean, like Luka's carrying the team too much, I believe. I feel like everything he's doing is great. He's getting to his spot. He's making some great passes, but he's doing everything. Kyrie needs to come in and help. That's what the Mavericks need to do if they want to come back down 2-0, because there's only been 5 teams in NBA history to come back down 2-0. And you want to know the last one? Was the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks. The Phoenix Suns won the first 2 games in that series, remember? And then the Bucks won every game after that. So something like this could happen with the Mavericks. They could win every game after this. But the chances of that are rare. So what do the Mavericks need to do to win this series? 1, win game 3, win game 4. They need to defend home court. As long as they defend home court, they're straight. But when it gets to game 5 through 7, the Mavericks have to get game 5 or game 7 to win this series. Ideally for Dallas, it'd be game 5, because then they can go to game 6 and defend home court and win the NBA championship. But the Celtics have been a very good team at home this postseason. They have not lost 1 game on the road this postseason. So for the Mavericks, who are 5-3 at home, they have to defend home court. But the Celtics have proven they can win on the road, which scares me for the Mavericks because the Celtics have been proven to be unmatched for the Mavericks. There's just too many guys that can do too many different things, like I said earlier, with the shot creators. Mavericks have to defend home court, and they got to get one of those games on the road. They just have to get one. Because down 2-0 is not the worst thing. But teams who are up 2-0 are 31-5 all time. So most of the time they win the series. But it's possible. It's possible for the Mavericks to come back. I want them to come back because I don't like the Celtics, okay? And I'm not giving Jason Tatum any of his flowers. Even for the triple-double. Not going to give it to him. It wasn't a pretty triple-double. It wasn't pretty. I love how he's making everyone else around him better. I love how he's rebounding. But I want to see him score. I want to see him be that dog. Because Jason Kidd said it. Jaylen Brown is their best player. And I agree with Jason Kidd. I agree. But those are my reactions for Game 1 and Game 2 of this series. We still have a lot more basketball to go. Game 3 is Wednesday. But let's get into the shot of the week. This goes out to Peyton Pritchard, point guard of the Boston Celtics. He shot a half-court shot to end the third quarter in Game 2. Pritchard would finish with 3 points, 2 assists, 1 rebound, and played 12 minutes. So Peyton Pritchard, he's been doing little things, but it turns into big things at the end of the day because he's an energy guy. He plays defense. I've raved about Peyton Pritchard. He's very similar to TJ McConnell, where he comes off the bench, gives great energy, and also can score the basketball whenever he wants to. And that shot, fantastic. He's showcasing his range. It's funny because that was his only points of the game, but I'm showing him this shot. But congrats to Peyton Pritchard on winning Shot of the Week on The Take. Let's get into JB's Picks, brought to you by Hard Rock Bets, the only betting app in the state of Florida that you can bet with. Just money lines, spreads, even player props. You can do anything you want on the Hard Rock Bet app. Download it now. Now, I've got one pick for you guys this week, just one. And it's going to be plus 105 for the Celtics to win Game 3. I described earlier, Celtics have not lost one road game in the postseason. I don't see that happening. And the Mavericks are 3-0 in Game 3s. But they are also 5-3 at home this postseason. So they've lost some games. So I think the Mavericks could slip up. I think they could slip up in this game. And I expect Jason Tatum to have a better game because, like I said earlier, he plays better on the road. His points per game averages go from 22 to 28. So there's a jump there. He has a sense of urgency when it comes to being on the road. And I like that. I like the Celtics to take a 3-0 lead on Wednesday. Book it. But let's transition to another topic. Dan Hurley turns down a 6-year, $70 million contract to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. This was a shocker to some people, including me, because one, I didn't know Dan Hurley was even a candidate for this job until this past weekend. And second, that's a lot of money, and that's a very long-term blanket. So a lot of security there. I thought Dan Hurley was going to accept it. I was waiting for him to accept it, but he didn't. Because in my opinion, I think being at UConn and having a blue blood school like that and potentially going for a three-peat is better than going to the Lakers, who haven't had many 50-win seasons since LeBron's been there. I think they've only had like 1 or 2 50-win seasons since the AD and LeBron era, okay? Dan Hurley's a great coach. At UConn, he's made the tournament 4 out of his 6 seasons. And he has a 141-58 record as a coach. This is just unbelievable. And Coach K, he got offered the same thing, not the exact same deal, but he got offered to coach the Lakers, and he turned it down. And I think this is going to be a good move for Dan Hurley because you don't need the stress of going into a job where you could possibly get fired if LeBron looks at you the wrong way. I'm sorry, but that's just a reality here. LeBron James isn't like, one thing you do, you're gone. Nada. Your job is finished, okay? Why would Dan Hurley, if I'm Dan Hurley, why would he want to go coach a team that, one, has so much drama, two, isn't even that good, and three, is old? The Lakers do not have that many draft picks in the next 3 years because they keep trading them away for players to win now because you're trying to build a team around a 40-year-old LeBron. That's not going to work. Anthony Davis is the person you should be building around, but he hasn't taken the keys to LA, and LeBron's just been holding them there for years. So if I'm Dan Hurley, I'm not going to go that route. And I think it's smart that he declined. Because UConn, he's got a great thing going on there. He's been building in an elite program. They were already prestigious before he got there. He's just been putting them more on the map year by year. And they're gonna be a top 5 team in the country next year. They're still gonna be a great team. Even though they lost Donovan Clingan, they're still gonna be a phenomenal basketball team because they have a great recruiting class. But another candidate that's emerged is Jay Wright, the former Villanova head coach. I've been told that Jay Wright is not interested because he's happy where he is on TV. That's what I've heard from sources, especially on the Colin Cowherd show. I'll shout him out. He said he was texting Jay Wright, and he said he's happy doing the TV thing. So I don't think that's going to happen. J.J. Redick, though, he's still a very prominent figure, and I think he is going to be head coach. I said this in my last podcast. I think he will be head coach. They're building a staff around him. Kumbaya, the whole thing on the podcast with him and Bronny and things like that. Me and Brandon, we had a friendly conversation about that. Shout out to you, Brandon, if you're listening. But let's move on to my final topic of the day because we've covered a lot here. Caitlin Clark did not make the Olympic team for the WNBA. First of all, why is she not on that team? Because she's already top 20 in scoring, and she's already the best shooter in the WNBA. Okay? She's a great player. And I'm going to relate this to the Dream Team in '92 because the Dream Team had all these Hall of Famers on it. Magic, Jordan, Bird, Stockton, Malone, Barkley, all these guys. But Christian Laettner was still there, a guy who hadn't even played in the league yet. He just came out of college. Caitlin Clark is in a very similar situation, but she is a very different player for her league than Christian was. So, in my opinion, I think Caitlin Clark should have made the team. One, because she could have made all these girls around her more famous. Two, more people in this country of the United States would watch the women's basketball team. But now, since she's not on the team, you just cut off a whole different audience that you could have had for the Summer Olympics. So that was dumb to not put her on the team. I think a lot of people can agree with this. I watched Dave Portnoy, Barstool. He said the same thing. It's stupid that she's not on the team. She should be on the team. She's the best basketball player. She's the biggest name in women's basketball right now. Right now. You could argue it women's sports. You could argue that. But her not being on that team, unacceptable. But this has been another episode of The Take. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson. Please hit the like button. Comment what you guys think about the NBA Finals up to this point. Let me know what you guys think about Game 3. I'm Jackson Burleson, and this has been another episode of The Take. Peace.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my